Today, September 26th, with the waxing moon in Scorpio, a profound cosmic alignment is activating the portals of professional and spiritual transformation. And this requires more than just action. It requires surrender, courage, faith. God is allowing some structures in your life to begin to crumble, to make room for what is truly yours. But be careful. If you ignore this energy, you may remain trapped in cycles that will delay your journey for months, perhaps years. There are moments when everything within you whispers, "It's time." A silent urging, subtle yet persistent, begins to rise, like a tide that can no longer be ignored. Yet, instead of stepping forward, you hesitate. The job you've outgrown, the title that no longer fits, the stale rhythm of your workdays. Each one begs for movement. But the familiar has a strange comfort, even when it limits you. And so you wait, just a little longer. The current phase, ruled by the crescent moon in Scorpio, holds a different kind of invitation. Not gentle, not soft. It burns. It corners. It demands. This is not a time for planning endlessly or making pro and con lists. This is a crossroad where the price of delay is your own energy shrinking. The old version of you is being asked to surrender, willingly or not. What lies ahead may be unclear, but what's behind has already expired. Fear rarely presents itself as fear. It wears the costume of logic, of timing, of just being cautious. But beneath these disguises lies an inner truth. You've been negotiating with your potential. You've been choosing comfort over calling. And calling doesn't wait forever. This lunar passage strips away illusions of someday and offers a single truth. You can shift now or stay stuck indefinitely. You don't need a perfect plan, just an honest one. You don't need certainty, just courage. The world doesn't change when you're ready. It changes when you're brave. Somewhere within you, the fire of transformation has already started. Let it grow. Let it light the path forward, even if your knees tremble. The unknown isn't your enemy. It's your next initiation. You've been rehearsing the change in your mind for weeks, maybe months. Imagining how it would feel to close that door, send that email, speak that truth. But instead of action, you negotiate in silence. After the next paycheck, after the next vacation. These delays sound wise, but they come at a hidden cost. Your fire dims a little more each time you postpone your evolution. Scorpio's crescent moon doesn't tolerate such betrayals. It doesn't whisper, it strikes. This is the moment where your soul refuses to be silenced. You were not made for half steps or lukewarm purpose. What burns inside you was never meant to settle for safety. The discomfort you feel now is not failure. It's a signal, a summons. It means the version of you who accepted less is dying, and the one who demands more is being born. Growth, by nature, disrupts. It pulls the rug from beneath your justifications and leaves you face to face with the one question you've been avoiding. How long will you let fear run your life? That question isn't cruel, it's clarifying. Because when the ache of stagnation finally outweighs the illusion of security, movement becomes non-negotiable. And in that instant, you rise, not as someone with all the answers, but as someone finally willing to ask the right ones. No map will appear. No voice will say, "Now it's safe." But the energy around you has shifted, and your body knows it. There's a window, brief, electric, transformative. Walk through it, and your reality changes. Stay behind, and so does your light. You don't have to leap recklessly. You just have to stop pretending you were ever meant to stay small. You did everything right. Followed the plan, honored the deadlines, gave your best. For a while, it looked like progress. New meetings, encouraging feedback, doors slightly opening. But now the momentum has vanished. You refresh your inbox, reread the pitch, stare at the calendar. Nothing moves. And the silence starts to sound like failure, though your heart knows it isn't. The truth is, what looked like growth may have been a beautifully disguised loop. Scorpio's crescent moon pierces illusions, especially the ones dressed as ambition. Not all movement is progress. Not all effort leads forward. Sometimes we're just deepening the groove of the same old pattern, mistaking repetition for momentum because it feels familiar and safe. This lunar tide doesn't bring answers, it brings mirrors. It shows you where your loyalty to the past is costing your future. That job, that project, that title you're still defending might already be expired in the spiritual realm. You don't need permission to break the cycle. What you need is the bravery to call things what they are, even if that means admitting something you once loved no longer fits your becoming. Endings feel like failure only to the part of you still clinging to who you used to be. But on the other side of surrender lives a path no one told you was available, because it only appears when you're finally ready to walk it. Scorpio doesn't ask for patience, it asks for truth. And truth, though painful, always clears the way for something real. It's not easy to admit that something you gave your heart to is no longer growing. The promises you made to yourself, the ladder you thought you were climbing, can suddenly feel like a cage. You were told consistency would lead to success, and maybe it did for a while. But what happens when the structure that once held your dreams now holds you hostage? Scorpio's crescent moon doesn't allow denial. It stings, cuts, burns, and in doing so, it reveals. It shows the cracks in the foundations you've been too loyal to question. It asks, is this really where you want to be, or are you here because you fear starting over? Real evolution often requires a sacred collapse, the kind that clears away not just what's broken, but what's comfortable. There's a quiet kind of grief that comes with letting go of a dream that didn't bloom. But there's also power. The power to reinvent, to redirect, to reclaim your energy from anything that once felt like purpose but now feels like duty. You are not obligated to continue anything that no longer aligns with who you are becoming. Freedom begins where obligation ends. This is the portal you've been sensing, the one that doesn't arrive with trumpets, but with truth. You don't need everything figured out. You just need to be honest enough to walk away from what no longer nourishes you. The ground beneath you isn't falling apart. It's shifting to make room for a future that finally reflects your inner transformation. You've mastered the art of appearing fine, smiling in meetings, nodding through routines, fulfilling tasks that drain you. Somewhere along the way, you became what was expected of you: efficient, adaptable, agreeable. But in private moments, there's a quiet ache, a feeling that you're meant for something more aligned, more real, more alive. The soul knows when it's wearing a mask for too long. The crescent moon in Scorpio is not here for surface truths. It asks for your raw essence. It wants the version of you that dares to speak up, to say no, to question the spaces that once felt safe. This lunar tide peels away the emotional costumes you've worn to fit in. And beneath them, the voice you've silenced, the passion you've postponed, the truth you've tried to negotiate with logic. There's no more room for false alignment. Either you bring your authenticity into the room, or you betray your spirit by continuing to play roles that no longer fit. Scorpio teaches that transformation doesn't always roar. It sometimes whispers, enough. Enough pretending. Enough shrinking. Enough calling it a phase when it's actually a pattern that's suffocating your purpose. This isn't rebellion. It's remembrance of who you were before the roles, before the titles, before the fear. And as you remember, you reclaim. This phase isn't about finding your mission. It's about finally living it, even if your voice shakes. Because only when you stand as yourself can the world begin to mirror your truth back to you. You've made compromises before, some small, some soul-sized. You accepted roles that kept your bills paid, but your spirit starved. Said yes when your gut whispered no. Dressed your truth in polite silence, fearing your authenticity would be too much. But every concession carved distance between who you are and what you do. And now, that distance feels impossible to ignore. Scorpio's crescent moon doesn't just illuminate what's hidden. It insists on emotional integrity. It reveals the quiet contracts you've signed with fear, the agreement to tolerate, to perform, to endure. But endurance isn't purpose. Endurance isn't fulfillment. And under this lunar tide, something inside you is done pretending otherwise. You're not here to survive your career. You're here to embody your calling. The discomfort you feel isn't confusion, it's clarity emerging. Your dissatisfaction isn't a flaw, it's a compass. When your work no longer holds your truth, the friction becomes sacred. It signals that a realignment is not only possible, it's overdue. You weren't made to dilute your brilliance for the sake of belonging. You were made to redefine the spaces you enter by bringing all of you. It's not about quitting your job tomorrow. It's about stopping the quiet betrayal of staying silent when your soul wants to speak. It's about infusing your current space with honesty or choosing one that honors it. This is your threshold moment, the one where you decide whether to keep fitting in or finally begin standing out by being true. There was a time you dimmed your voice to keep the peace, a season when your ideas were shelved in favor of keeping your job or your comfort. You were present, but not fully expressed. You played safe, smaller, quieter, until the silence grew heavier than the risk. And now, under Scorpio's lunar tide, something ancient within you starts to stir, not ambition, but reclamation. This is not about proving your worth. It's about remembering it. There's a distinct pull in the air, a magnetic call to recover what you once handed over without knowing the cost. Your self-respect, your seat at the table, your voice in the room. This moment doesn't ask you to start from scratch. It asks you to return, to step back into the power you once paused. Scorpio doesn't deliver change gently. It challenges your loyalty to patterns that no longer serve. So if you feel the tension rising, the urge to speak up, the discomfort in staying quiet, it's not coincidence. It's a sacred signal. You're not being punished by the past. You're being prepared to reclaim it, rewrite it, and lead from a place of wholeness. Redemption is not grand or loud. Sometimes it's simply the courage to say no more, to walk into the next meeting and bring your full truth, to stop asking for permission to be respected. This lunar movement doesn't hand you a new role. It invites you to occupy the one that's always been yours. Are you ready to return without shrinking? Maybe they didn't hear you the first time. Maybe you spoke with hope, but were met with silence. Over the years, you adjusted, smiling while swallowing ideas, helping while hiding your brilliance. But no role, no position, no paycheck should demand that you shrink to survive. And now, the energy shifts. Scorpio's lunar momentum cracks open the surface and demands depth. No more pretending you're fine with less. This is a threshold moment, subtle but seismic. The type of change that doesn't ask for external permission. It begins in your posture, in the decision to stop apologizing for your perspective, in the realization that you were never hired just to perform, but to contribute from the center of your truth. The reintegration is not about revenge. It's about alignment. What if you didn't hold back in the next conversation? What if you said the idea that scares you because it feels too big? What if you showed up as the version of you that stopped minimizing your gifts just to stay liked? The answers won't come instantly, but the shift begins when you choose to stop performing and start participating fully. The past does not define your professional identity. It refines it. And now, with this powerful lunar turning, you are not rebuilding from ruins. You are remembering what you once compromised and reclaiming it with maturity. This is not about going back. It's about returning, differently, entirely, and with your integrity intact. Somewhere along the path, what once felt exciting became mechanical. The goals, the performance, the daily grind. Silent reminders that you've been building a ladder that no longer leans against the right wall. But something stirs now. Scorpio's lunar momentum doesn't whisper, it pierces. A subtle discomfort grows, not because things are breaking, but because something within you is finally awakening. This isn't burnout. It's clarity, a spiritual fatigue born from pretending that stability is enough. You're not being asked to burn everything down, only to tell the truth. What part of your work still holds your soul? And what part have you outgrown? but continue to carry out of habit or fear. This is the beginning of a deeper inquiry, one that will not be silenced again. The invitation is clear, but not loud. It comes in the form of restlessness, in the sudden realization that doing more is not the same as living fully. And yet, the turning point is never external. It's internal. A single sentence, "I can't do this like before." That truth, once spoken, changes everything. It breaks the contract with mediocrity and opens space for mission. You are not leaving behind a career. You are shedding a version of yourself that was built to survive in systems too small for your calling. The universe isn't asking for sacrifice, it's offering alignment. The only price is your willingness to trust the unknown more than the comfort of what is no longer true. Some chapters don't close with doors slamming. They end in whispers, when you no longer feel excited on a Monday morning, when a task you once loved feels heavy, when success feels strangely hollow. It's not failure, it's transition. The kind Scorpio governs, silent, irreversible, and honest. This lunar current doesn't ask for permission. It removes illusions so your soul can breathe again. What feels like loss may be sacred release. Sometimes, it's not that the dream ended, it evolved. And holding on to what no longer fits is what stifles your next breakthrough. The invitation now is to release without bitterness, to step away not in resentment, but in reverence for what shaped you. The old version of your career brought you here, but it cannot take you further. There's a subtle revolution happening inside you. You're being called not to produce more, but to become more. More aligned, more awake, more devoted to the kind of work that moves life through you, not just tasks across your desk. This doesn't mean abandoning practicality. It means giving your practicality a deeper reason to exist. It means integrating your essence with your effort. Scorpio's truth isn't about chaos, it's about integrity. And the greatest form of alignment is when your outer life reflects your inner truth. If a new path is forming, it won't come with loud signs. It will come with peace that follows your yes. Trust it. The purpose you seek is not waiting out there. It is waiting for you to stop pretending you don't already feel it.